Hello everyone, I'm Nurul Atika, your moderator for today, and welcome to today's webinar, Sexual Harassment Among Our Society. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. We've done a Google form so that you can fill in your attendance there. The link is at the description box down below, so don't forget to fill the form as your proof for joining today's talk. You will have the opportunity to submit your questions to today's presenter by typing your questions at the comment section down below. You may send in your questions after watching this presentation. We will collect your questions and answer them one by one by replying to the comments. Now, I would like to introduce to you our presenters, Nordiana Atira, Nurul Dadina, and Nurin Fadwa. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to the speakers. Our first presenter, Nordiana Atira. As mentioned above, our topic today, which is sexual harassment among our society. Nowadays, we know that a lot has been happening, and one of the hot issues right now is about sexual harassment. Most of the people didn't even know what is meant by sexual harassment. It is actually a serious matter which can affect someone's life. So, Diana, can you explain to us what is truly meant by sexual harassment? I mean, what is the definition of sexual harassment?
One of the unfortunate offshoots of our culture's obsession with sex is problems with sexual harassment. Sexual harassment harms the sexual integrity of teens in their peer relationships. A definition of sexual harassment is unwelcome attention of sexual nature occurring through verbal and physical interaction. Being a victim of sexual harassment is likely to affect a teen's academic performance or work ability and may create a hostile or threatening atmosphere for the teen. In fact, sexual harassment coming from one teen to another is a type of bullying. Sexual harassment also can occur anywhere, in middle and also high schools. Sexual harassment happens not just between the sexes but also among girls and boys.
Alright, thank you Diana for the informative explanation. Now, as you have understood the meaning of sexual harassment, we are going to move on to the types of it. Dalina, can you tell us what are the types of sexual harassment?
Thank you, Atika. So, I'm going to explain about type of sexual harassment. So, we have two types of sexual harassment. According to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission (EEOC), and the two types of sexual harassment claims that quid pro quo and hostile work environment. Okay, so what that means? Quid pro quo means this for that. In this context, it involves express of implied demands for sexual favor in exchange for some benefit like promotion, pay increase, or to avoid some treatment like termination, demotion in the workplace. So, quid pro quo harassment is executed for someone who is in a position of power or authority over another, like manager or supervisor over a subordinate. So a clear example of quid pro quo harassment would be a supervisor threatening to fire an employee if he or she does not have sex with them. Okay, so what about the other type? Hostile work environment harassment arises when speech or conduct is so severe and pervasive that creates an intimidating or demeaning environment or situation that negatively affects a person's job performance. Unlike quid pro quo harassment, this type of harassment can be executed by anyone in the work environment, including a peer, supervisor, subordinate, vendor, customer, or contractor. So, hostile work environment situation are not as easy to recognize, given that an individual comment or appearance may not be severe. Demeaning behavior may happen that is not based on sex, and there may be long periods between offensive incidents. Example of conduct that might create a hostile work environment include inappropriate touching, sexual jokes on comments, repeated requests for dates, and a work environment where offensive pictures are displayed. Okay, the EEOC also say that sexual harassment can happen in a variety of circumstances, including the following, like the victim as well as the harasser may be a woman or a man, and the victim does not have to be of the opposite sex. Okay, so the harasser can be the victim's supervisor and agent of the employer, a supervisor in another area, a co-worker, or non-employee. The victim also does not have to be the person harassed, but could be anyone affected by the offensive conduct. Unlawful sexual harassment may happen without economic injury to a discharge of the victim, and the harasser's conduct must be unwelcome. The prevention is the best tool to eliminate sexual harassment in the workplace by communicating to employees that sexual harassment will not be tolerated, by training on harassment prevention, by establishing an effective complaint process, and by taking immediate and appropriate action when an employee complains, because employers have an opportunity to stop inappropriate behavior before it reaches the level of illegal harassment. Okay, so that's it for the type of sexual harassment. So I hope for you can see the difference these two types of sexual harassment.
Well done. Thank you, Darina, for the knowledgeable information. As Darina mentioned just now, there are two types of sexual harassment. Moving to our third presenter, Noreen. She will be going to discuss about the myth and misconceptions of sexual harassment. Let's listen to her, shall we?
Okay, thank you, Miss Atika, for the question. Alright, so Assalamualaikum and a very good day to everyone. So when we talk about sexual harassment, there are actually a lot of common misconceptions about this issue, and the more we learn about it, the more we realize how many of our attitudes are based on myth rather than facts. So first, the most popular misconception about sexual harassment that I ever heard is that only women are harassed and only men are sexual harassers. I would like to say here that meanwhile most sexual harassment these days are committed by men against women, there are actually also cases of harassment by women against men and cases of same-sex harassment. The belief that sexual harassment is based on sex and physical attraction had led us to the illusion that only women are sexually harassed. Actually, no. Sexual harassment is a crime of power and control. Therefore, the offenders often choose people they perceive as the most vulnerable to attack. This proves that anyone, regardless of gender, can be the victim of harassment or even a harasser itself. Next, the misconception that I would strongly oppose is sexual harassment is provoked by flirting and style of dress. Believe it or not, this is actually an attempt to shift the blame to the victim, which is both unacceptable and inaccurate. When someone says something like, "Look at how you're dressed," you're asking for it. They're actually putting the blame on the assaulted person, thus removing the responsibility from the assaulter. This concept is similar to the myth in that they encourage us to believe that how things are today is the natural order of things, that those who are assaulted deserve their fate, and that only certain types of people get sexually harassed. So, I would like to highlight here that no one asks or deserve to be sexually harassed. Neither provocation dress nor promiscuous behavior are the invitation for unwanted sexual activity. Assaulters are the one who are responsible for their own action regardless of the way a person dresses or acts. Therefore, sexual harassment is never the victim's fault because a person's appearance has nothing to do with a case of rape or do not equal to consent. Lastly, people also think that sexual harassment requires touching. No. Sexual harassment does not always have to be physical. Sometimes it can also be in a verbal form. For example, when someone talks about something that is not necessary and can make the other person feel threatened, then it is also a part of sexual harassment. Some people might argue that it was only a compliment or a joke. Even if a person's actions are intended to be flattering or funny, it may still be offensive to others. Therefore, this proves that sexual harassment can come in many forms, not only physical. I think that's all for me.
Wow, what an insight. Thank you, Nurin, for explaining about the myth and misconceptions of sexual harassment. Yes, I totally agree with Nurin about the misconception that most of the people are aware and still make it as a wrong and bad view to women. Like most of them blame women for sexual harassment. So something just crossed my mind. What if someone has been harassed sexually in their daily life? What can they do to deal with sexual harassment, Diana? Can you tell us how to cope with this problem?
If you think you're being harassed, don't blame yourself. People who harass can be very manipulative. They are often good at blaming the other person and even at making victims blame themselves. But no one has the right to sexually harass anyone else, no matter what. There is no such thing as asking for it. There's no single right way to respond to sexual harassment. Each situation is unique. It often can be helpful to start by telling the person doing the harassing to stop. Let him or her know that this behavior is not okay with you. Sometimes that will be enough, but not always. The harasser may not stop. He or she might even laugh off your request, tease you, or bother you more. That's why it's important to share what's happening with an adult you trust. Is there a parent, relative, or teacher you can talk to? More and more schools have a designated person who's there to talk about harassing issues. So, find out if there's someone at your school. Most schools have a sexual harassment policy or a bullying policy to protect you. Ask a guidance counselor about your school's policy. If you find the adult you talk to doesn't take your complaint seriously at first, you may have to repeat yourself or find someone else who will listen. There's no doubt it can feel embarrassing to talk about sexual harassment at first, but that uncomfortable feeling quickly wears off after a minute or so of conversation. In most cases, telling someone sooner leads to faster results and fewer problems down the line, so it's worth it. It can help to keep a record of the events that have happened. Write down dates and short descriptions in a journal. Save any offensive pictures, videos, and also text as evidence. That way, you'll have them if your school or family has to take legal action. To avoid going through feeling upset all over again, save this evidence someplace where you don't have to see it every day. Besides, bystanders also play an important role in stopping sexual harassment. If you see someone who is being harassed, take action. If it feels safe and natural to speak up, say, "Come on, let's get out of here," to the person you see getting bothered. You probably shouldn't try to change the harasser's behavior by yourself. But it is okay to let that person know. People are watching and will be getting involved. If you feel you can say if you don't feel you can say something at the time you see the incident, report to the event report the event to parents or teacher. This isn't snitching. It's standing up for what's right. No one deserves to be harassed. You could also talk to the victim afterward and offer support. Say that you think what happened is not okay and offer some ideas for dealing with harassment. Other than that, you won't always see sexual harassment happening, right? A friend who is going through it might not talk about it. Sometimes people show signs that something's wrong even if they don't talk about it. Maybe a normally upbeat friend seems sad, worried, or distracted. Perhaps a friend has lost interest in hanging out or doing stuff. Maybe someone you know avoids school or has falling grades. Changes like this are often signs that something's going on. It may not be sexual harassment, as things like mood swings or changes in eating habits can be signs of many different things too. But it is a chance for you to ask if everything's okay.
So, Dalina, I have a question for you. Imagine if you are a parent, what will you teach your child to prevent sexual harassment?
Thank you, Atika, for asking me that question. So if I'm a parent, what what I can teach my child to prevent sexual harassment? Okay, so here are the few things that could help your child be less vulnerable to sexual abuse. Okay, so first, talk about body parts early. Means you need to name body parts and talk about them very early, like very young at their age. Okay, just use a proper names for body parts, or at least teach your child what the actual words are for their body parts. Okay, now I can't tell you how many young children that I have heard who have called their vagina their bottom, feeling comfortable to using this word, and knowing what they mean can help a child talk clearly if something inappropriate has happened. Okay, for the second method is teach them that some body parts are private. Means like, okay, you must to tell your child that their private parts are called private because they are not for everyone to see. So you must to explain that only their mommy and daddy can see them naked, but people outside of the home or a stranger should only see them with their clothes on. So you also must explain how their doctor can see them without their clothes, because of a mommy and daddy are there with them, and the doctor just want to check in their body. Okay, next is tell your child that body secrets are not okay, because most perpetrators will tell the child to keep the abuse a secret. This can be done in a friendly way, such as, I love playing with you, but if you tell anyone else what we play, they won't let me come over again. Or it can be a trick. This is our secret. If you tell anyone, I will tell them it was your idea, and you will get in a big trouble. Tell your kids that no matter what anyone tell them, body secrets are not okay, and they should always tell you if someone tries to make them keep a body secret. Okay, next is you can tell your child that no one should take pictures of their private parts. Okay, this one is often missed by parents. There is a whole sick world out there of pedophiles who love to take and trap pictures of naked children online. So this is an epidemic, and it puts your child at risk. Okay, so tell your kids that no one should ever take pictures of their private parts. Okay, so the last tip that I can suggest is you must tell your children they will never be in trouble if they tell you a body secret, which mean, because children often tell people that they didn't say anything because they thought they would get in trouble too. This fear is often used by the perpetrator. Okay, so just tell your child that no matter what happens, when they tell you anything about body safety or body secret, they will never get in trouble. Okay, so make sure you highlight this part because it's really really important. Okay, and I hope for those that listen to this webinar, please educate people around you, especially especially your family about this. Okay, please spread awareness about this.
There is an issue recently about sexual harassment that happened to a schoolgirl in Malaysia. Can you tell us more about this issue, Nurin? What happened to that girl? Did she get justice? Or is there any other issue that you wanted to share with us today?
Thank you again, Miss Atika. So talking about issue, when we look back at the past few weeks, there was a debate on sexism and abuse that sparked when a 17-year-old student revealed the rape culture in Malaysian school. The student, Ain Husniza, went on TikTok to call out her physical education teacher for a rape joke he shared in front of the class in late April. In her video, she said that her class had been talking about laws that protect minors from sexual harassment when the teacher suddenly interjected. He said, if you want to rape someone, make sure they are above 18. Her teacher really said that, making the girls went quiet, but the boys were laughing like it was so funny to joke around about raping someone. The video she created has reignited debate over sexual harassment, misogyny, and violence against women and girls in Malaysia. So after her videos went viral, she also created the hashtag Make School a Safer Place on Twitter to highlight the hostile response she had received. And later then, thousands of Malaysians took to social media to show their support for her by speaking out against sexual harassment in school. So, in spite of the mounting evidence, the netizens have openly criticized Ain for being too emotional. In their opinion, they think she should have just kept quiet and resolved the matter privately instead of posting it online. She also revealed that her own school officials have tried to intimidate her into silence, but she is so lucky that her parents have been so supportive of her. Ain, who believes that she is the privilege for this chance to voice out, continues to speak until today because she aimed to make things right in our society. And that's good. Okay, so you may wonder what happened to the teacher. So, nearly 3 weeks later after the video went viral, the teacher was transferred to another school, and this had drew a lot of criticism. People keep saying that it is unfair for him because they think that Ain had ruined his career and life. Personally, I am strongly against this mentality because, in my opinion, the most important thing is for us to train our teachers and the school community to understand child safeguarding policies and what can they do to prevent any form of misconduct in school, as school should be the second safe place for students after their homes. I don't want to talk too much, and therefore to conclude this whole issue, I would like to say that everyone, including parents, teachers, students, district officers and the ministry must all work hand in hand to find solution to build our school better. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Let's give a hand to our speakers for our topic today. It is such a serious topic we discuss here. That's it for today, everyone. We appreciate you being here. We would like to acknowledge again the presence of our speakers, Nurin Fadwa, Nurul Dalina, and Nurdiana Atira. We would also like to thank everyone who made this webinar series possible. Thanks again for joining us today. I am Nurul Atika and see you next time.